Hey guys, it's Bub here, and this is iOS 14. iOS 14 was released exactly 1 week ago at Apple's WWDC 2020, so let's take a look at it exactly 1 week later. To start off, we're going to be taking a look at the most obvious change of iOS 13 to iOS 14, which is widgets. Hold on the home screen, click the plus in the top left corner, and drag a widget onto your home screen. You can do this for any widget that is in iOS 14, but currently all widgets that are available are proprietary first-party Apple widgets. However, we expect developers in the future to add more third-party widgets to create a more Android-like experience. On the topic of Android, many people believe that Apple is starting to copy Android by adding widgets. However, in my opinion, the two widgets are very different, and I think that Apple did them better than Android. That's coming from a user who's used Android for 3 years. Another type of widget on iOS 14 is called the Smart Stack. The Smart Stack features all kinds of different widgets in one space. You can automatically swipe through them or let an AI choose which one you'll need. For example, if you always check the weather at 5 o'clock, you'll eventually see the weather at 5 o'clock every day. And if you check your calendar at 9 in the morning, it'll automatically switch to calendar at 9 in the morning. The other obvious addition to iOS 14 is the addition of an app library or an app drawer. When you swipe left on the last page of your home screen, it opens up the app drawer. If you click on the search bar at the top of the app library, you'll see an alphabetical list of all your apps installed, and you can also search all of the apps on your phone. So if we wanted to open voice memos, we type in memo, and it is easily opened. Because of the app drawer addition, you no longer have to see all pages of your home screen. So if you hold on your home screen, click the dots on the bottom, and then you can select which home screen pages you want to see. For example, I hid the second page of my screen. And if you wanted to bring it back, do the same thing, and then click the dot on the bottom, done, and then you'll have that second page back. Facetime and call notifications no longer take up the whole screen like they did on previous iOS releases. They pop up in a notification type format where you can decline or accept calls. Swipe down on the notification to bring up the old call screen, and then you can accept or decline there. If you don't want to immediately decline a call, you can just swipe up on the notification and your phone will stop ringing, but the person on the other end of the phone will still be calling you. On previous iOS releases, as we can see here, Siri takes up the whole screen and you can't see what you were doing or interact with what you were doing. However, now on iOS 14, Siri's gotten smarter and smaller. She now takes up a little animation at the bottom of your display, and conversation pieces like that show up above the orb. However, if you ask Siri to do a task like what's the weather, it'll pop up in a notification style format just like that. However, one thing I've noticed when you're using Siri is that when you use it, you can't interact with the background. Siri just goes away. So instead of asking Siri a question and, let's say, continuing to scroll, Siri will just disappear when you make an attempt to scroll on whatever you were doing. Another feature that finally made its way to iOS 14 from Android is Picture-in-Picture. I enjoyed Picture-in-Picture very much on my Android phone, so, for example, in this FaceTime call, we just swipe out of it, and it goes into a picture-in-picture mode. Now you can put this in any corner of your screen, however you can't put it in the middle. You can also swipe it off to the side and it disappears. You can then grab the arrow and then move it back wherever you want it on your display. This will be only in supported apps, however FaceTime is the only supported app I could find right now. You can also search for emojis in the keyboard. So open the emoji selection, type in what you want, and then it pops up. So instead of scrolling through all your emojis, you simply search it and it's there. Apple's own Translate app is now pre-installed to iOS, however it can be deleted if you don't want it. Siri uses this feature to translate conversations if you say, Siri, translate this word. You'll now be able to change the default email and browser apps on iOS 14, however the framework is there but there's no dedicated setting yet. However, it will be added in the future. Another feature I find really cool is Backtap. If you go into Settings, Accessibility, Touch, Backtap, the feature is there. You can select a double or a triple tap on the back of your device to perform a certain action. For example, double tap opens lock screen for me, and the triple tap opens the control center. So, looking at the back of my device, if I double tap, it goes to sleep. Looking at it, if I triple tap it, it opens the control center. In my personal testing, Backtap is not available on the iPhone 6s. iOS 14 brought a lot of privacy changes, however this is probably the biggest one. When your camera is being used, there is now a green dot at the top of your screen, and Control Center tells you what app is using it. The same goes for the microphone. Let's say we open voice memos, the same dot is there, except now it's orange. The same thing applies in Control Center. You swipe down, it says orange, and then it shows which app is using your microphone. Another new feature of iOS 14 is called App Clips. It harnesses the power of NFC chips to open part of an app. Let's say you need to pay for parking, but you don't have the app installed. No problem, just hold your phone up to the NFC or scan a certain code, and the app clip will pop up. You don't have to have the app installed to use an app clip because it gets it from the cloud. There were some Carplay changes, two of the most major ones being the ability to change the background of your Carplay and the ability to use your iPhone as a car key, very similar to the way the Tesla Model 3 uses your phone. That was just a basic overview of some of the new features in iOS 14. I highly recommend checking out another video such as MKBHD's for a more in-depth overlook at the features. I've had iOS 14 installed on my iPhone 10 since last Monday when it was unveiled at WWDC, and quite frankly, I've only had one app crash on me. This doesn't mean you should install it right now as it is still a developer beta, but other than that, everything is smooth, everything new has been so far very snappy and responsive, so yes, this is a very good update, but do not install it until the public beta or when it comes out in September. One thing that may have caught your eye during the keynote is the inclusion of the iPhone 6s being supported on iOS 14, and you may be wondering, well, how does that run? And honestly, it runs pretty well. Surprisingly, I thought this 6s would end up like the iPhone 4s on iOS 9, being unbelievably slow, unresponsive, etc. But honestly, it runs great. Almost all of the new iOS 14 features work on the 6s, however, I do have one issue, the battery life drain. This usually happens on all iOS betas where the battery life is not as good as it would be on the final product. However, I have noticed that on this 6s and my iPhone 10 that the battery drains much faster than it did on iOS 13. Anyway guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're new around here. I do all kinds of tech videos, and I'll see you all in the next one.